He held a to my head. I knew that him catching me with my cell phone, I would be 100%. I am Bethany Green. I was raised in a very Christian household. From a very early age, I was groomed already to be thinking about motherhood, to be thinking about how I would treat my husband. And so I got this idea I was going to have a fairy tale. I found the first guy that gave me attention. I was 18. I was very attracted to this man, and he was 22, and he had a job, and he was almost graduated from college. It really started immediately. At 1 week, we were already fighting to an unhealthy level. The first thing that he ingrained in me was that if you were not fighting as a couple, then you were doomed, that you were not going to make it. It wasn't very long before I was getting kicked out of the car on the highway in the rain during winter time because I was being immature. Or a specific instance was when we were looking at Christmas lights. The Chipmunk song came on. He had said something about how he couldn't believe that even back then they found little people to do the voiceovers for these chipmunks. And I said, well, you know that it's just regular people, just their voice because they're at a higher speed. And I laughed a little bit because it was kind of cute. He kicked me out of the car and left me on the side of the road. I believed that that was my fault. Looking back now, that doesn't make any sense. To any rational person, that doesn't make sense. Within 3 months, we were engaged. We got married. I was 19 and he was 23. I thought that if I gave him the wedding that he would like and I didn't do anything that I wanted, then we would have a happier marriage. Nothing about the wedding was anything that I had dreamed about from the time I was little. This was a cowboy wedding. We had literal shotguns at our wedding. We did get to go on a honeymoon, and this was his first time even leaving the States. He'd never left before. We went to Colorado. He accused me of aligning my birth control so that I would be on my menstrual cycle while we were on our honeymoon, just to punish him. So those things started then and only progressed as time went on. So I got pregnant. That's what happened next. Of course, it was immediate for him to have a family. It was so important. However, the moment I told him that I was pregnant, he went on a downward spiral, just lost him, started drinking very heavily. He was attentive in the fact that would go to doctor's appointments and stuff, but me being pregnant was a me being pregnant thing. It had nothing to do with him. He was excited to find out the gender of our child. He was excited that he was going to be a dad, but it seemed like something was lacking, and we would fight all of the time, and he would just blame me for not being woman enough to handle my pregnancy, that women have been having kids their whole lives, or for thousands of generations. But if I complained that my back hurt, I was a wuss. I wasn't woman enough. And my mom made me swear that if a man ever put his hands on me, that's when I needed to run. Well, he hadn't put his hands on me, so I didn't know to run. He was heavily needed it to finish school. He became heavily into, which ideally is not that big a deal, but it was to me because it took place of me at that time while I'm carrying his child, if you understand. So a lot of things just switched. It was very odd. Our child came. It was an emergency situation. Our child almost died. 6 hours later, my monster went to school. He had a paper due. I sat there in the hospital with my brand new baby. I was 21. My parents weren't there. There was no one there with me, just my child and me. And I went, I need to go. I need to run. And it was at that moment when I went, something's not right. Why isn't he with us? What is happening? After that, he was on the path to becoming a federal law enforcement officer. So every day was dedicated to training. As our child within their first year, my ex-husband would not change a diaper, by the way, refused. It was a woman's job. I did everything because it was just a woman's place. It was a very kind of a sexist situation, just Would not. I cleaned, I cooked, I did absolutely everything. Every doctor's appointment, like again, diaper change, clothing change, stuff. And I wasn't allowed to go anywhere by myself either. So I would have to wait for him to come home and go get groceries or go get the things that my child needed. It was crazy. And then he got the job to go into training at the federal level, which was across the country at the time. He was immediately picked up to go to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, which was across the country. I was going to be left alone for 4.5 months. No big deal. I had plenty of military families that I was involved with. I knew the game. Like, it wasn't that big a deal. If anything, it was a relief. As soon as he came home, now he had a power. Now, all of a sudden, he was important. Now he had a badge. Now he had all this power. He expected when he came home that our child and me would just follow in line. We had to move. I became pregnant within minutes of him being home. So baby number 2 was on the way. And my entire pregnancy, I saw him a grand total of 10 days, the entire pregnancy. Again, this wasn't necessarily, this was, this happens if you have a spouse that goes into a job like this. This happens. But it was the phone calls. It was the treatment. I needed to start taking pictures of what I looked like before I left to the house and then send them to him. Then take pictures when I got to wherever I was to prove that I was where I was. And then just take pictures of what I looked like when I was home, when I came back. Because he wanted to make sure that I wasn't lying. When our second child was born, my ex-husband was there for the birth, and then that was it. Had to take care of our oldest, but didn't return and didn't call, and I was alone. And so I went through a severe bout of depression, and then the postpartum depression hit incredibly hard, to which he told me that I was and that I needed to get over myself, and by the way, take care of the 2 kids, I'm going to be gone. When it came to like the bedroom, he was very controlling. It was important. He did not feel loved unless we had twice a day, every day, when he was home. And that's a minimum, which to me, it wasn't a bad thing. Like, we were married. I enjoyed it. It was fine. But that stopped too. I got a text message basically saying that I was now required to call him sir. I could not call him anything else. At first, I thought he was joking, like, okay, right. But hey, I'll play along. A few hours later, in the middle of the conference, he was calling me, but I was in the middle of the conference. I wasn't going to pick up. I got a text message, and it's in all caps. It was like, you will answer me right now. So I went running as he was calling a second time. I went running into the bathroom, and I picked up the phone. I was like, I'm so sorry. And he said, I'm so sorry, what? And I said, I'm sorry, I didn't, in the conference, I'm sorry I didn't pick up. He said, I'm sorry, what? I said, I don't know what you mean. And he goes, oh, this is going to be fun. He goes, you have no idea what you're in for. And I said, I don't know what I'm in for. And he said, no, you don't. I'm here with your effing kids. You're going to answer the call, and you're going to call me sir. The rules were laid out by the time I got home. I could no longer touch him without permission. I definitely could not kiss him without permission. I could not look at other men or really other women outside of our home in the eyes. I could not look him in the eyes. And after the next 6 months, the amount of it that was, I can't quantify it, because he took what's playful for some people with BD, took that playful excitement, and every single part of it was a punishment. If I didn't clean the dishes, I got in the bedroom later that night. If I didn't answer him correctly, I could get from the ceiling. And that did happen several occasions, where I would be upside down and left for up to 2 hours, just and hanging from the ceiling because I hadn't done something right. If I didn't make the bed, if I didn't clean things, if I didn't have this done when he wanted it done, if our children were out of line. Again, his was out of control still, but the abuse in the bedroom is what I don't think most people would categorize as a, because hey, we were married, and he consistently would tell me that it was never considered if it was between a husband and a wife. There were two main instances. My mother had passed away 5 days after her memorial. We had found out that our oldest child was going to be having a brain surgery. We knew that they were going to have brain surgery. They had epilepsy. And so we knew that was coming. But 5 days after, we got the phone call, the date of when those surgeries would begin. Our child would have 4 total major brain surgeries. And that night, my ex-husband went to the store and cleaned it out ways and brought it all home and began heavily. I attempted to pull a out of his hand because I needed him to talk to me. I mean, my God, we had just had this major thing happen, and because our oldest was only 6, when I tried to pull it back, he shoved me and my head hit the pantry door, the doorknob, and I passed out, knocked me clean out. And cops came to the door and arrested him on site. He was completely naked, belligerent, but of course, he had fantastic health insurance. Even though I didn't have to press charges and they arrested him anyway, I did not push it further. I spoke to the DA. I did the good wife thing and kept him out of jail. So that was point of contention number 1, where I said, okay, our child needs to have this surgery and then I'm out. I gotta go. I was trying to escape out of a window with our children. No one should have to deal with this. We gotta go as soon as our child is safe. So our child had the surgeries. Fast forward a couple of years, and he had stopped drinking after the arrest, had gone to therapy. We had gone to counseling together. It seemed okay. We moved way up north because his captain did not want him representing the force right there. So he got transferred up north. Things seemed okay. And then he got in a lot of trouble at work. Something happened. I still do not know what happened. Still have no clue. But I have a feeling he somebody. That's what I believe. We ended up moving back down in around 2017, 2018. We moved a little bit further south of where we were before. The morning of January 1st, 2018 is when I decided I was completely done. Something came over my body and I went, I can't do this anymore. As safe as I can be, I had no education, no financial, anything. I had no money to my name, but somehow I knew I had to get out. I have no clue what came over me. I was January 1st. That's all I know. And so over the course of about 9 months, I started picking at every little thing that he would do. He had joined jiu-jitsu. So of course, more ego boosting. Continues a lot of mental stuff, still none of the stuff had ever changed or died down. The sexual stuff slowed because I was starting to put my foot down. I was saying, I'm not going to call you sir anymore. Our children are starting to catch me when I don't call you sir, and they yell at me. That's not okay. So I stopped. I really was making some strides, and he was kind of going along with it seemed. But in September, I decided I was completely done, and he was gone on an assignment. And our youngest child, upon finding out that he was going to come home, that my ex-husband was going to come home from his assignment, my youngest child said, I don't want daddy to come home. It's so much nicer when he's not here. That's enough for any mom to hear, period. And after all that time that I had felt the way that I felt, if my 8-year-old is saying that to me, no, we're done. So somehow I kind of started to make some plans. I had a bag packed to go to my father's just in case. And I wound up needed it because I was not answering my ex-husband's phone calls as often. I was being a little more defiant because I wasn't responding to everything. He had texted me, I don't love you anymore. And I went, all right, biblically, since we're still Christians and whatever, he said that he was going to find somebody else, and he probably already had someone else. He just wasn't going to tell me. I went, well, biblically, I think that's my out. And so called my father, my children, my dog, and me. We went to stay with him for a couple of days. And at that time, my ex-husband had returned home and was calling and texting and begging and crying and pleading and all the stuff. I did agree to come home. Kids needed to go to school. Our oldest had a cross-country meet. I had to be there. Came home and put the kids to bed, and he was crying. My ex-husband was crying and begging me not to leave him. A few things happened over the next 2 days. He wound up going to a hotel. And at that time, I found on my phone, because we had connected Apple accounts or whatever, that he had bought Tinder. Not only Tinder, but the golden, fancy package of Tinder, which made me laugh and gave me so much freedom. I wish I could explain how much freedom that gave me, because now I wasn't to blame. and I had something. And anyway, he came back. It was a Wednesday morning, October 3rd. He came back at about 7 o'clock and told our children to go get in his car. He was taking them to school. They were not riding the bus. I texted my dad. I texted my best friend, and I let them know he's here. He's going to hurt me. I love you. Basically, like, just be prepared that something's going to happen. And that day, he held me hostage for 4.5 hours. It was the most harrowing moment of my life. He bound me. He held a gun to my head. His duty. He threw me across the house, pushed my head in against a picture frame. When I tried to escape, he chased me outside and pulled me back in. My shirt. It wouldn't allow me to go to the bathroom several times. And when he finally did, I snuck my phone in, knowing that me doing that would be the end of me. I knew that him catching me with my cell phone, I would be 100%. So I sent out a text message to my father and my stepmother, and I said, he's here, or if he is hurting me, I'm probably not going to make it. I love you. And I hit send. Then I freaked out and I went back and deleted it, hoping that it didn't actually send. Wasn't sure because I didn't want him to find it on my phone. What I did have was a hidden Snapchat app where I had been kind of going back and forth with a guy that I had just kind of met, was just, someone that I had met who lived in Florida. So just friends, all good. Sent him a message saying, hey, I'm going to get hurt. Husband's here. He's hurting me. Please help. I didn't know what else to do, but I knew that my ex-husband couldn't find that app. That was the only thing I could think of, was that it wouldn't be found if he went through my phone. He couldn't accuse me of anything, as I certainly couldn't call 911. And when I came out, he found the phone. He dragged me down. It's when he attempted to me, eventually did. 15 minutes later, I was losing all air, all oxygen. He had me in a hold, in a jiu-jitsu hold, and he was laughing at me. I do remember distinctly how much he was laughing at me. Then there was a bang at the door. His cell phone started going off, and then his work cell phone started going off. And he's like, they're here, baby. Well, I love you. Gotta go. He went to the door, again, naked. So just like the first time, except this time there was not an ounce of or on him at all. And one of his very good friends was standing at the door in uniform, arrested him on the spot, came in and found me, and you could see it on the body cam when he came to me. My shirt was ripped. My face was a mess. I was sobbing. And that was the end. That was the last time I had to see him, because they arrested him on, at the time, it was 4 felony counts. I couldn't even cry. I don't think I cried for a whole week. I didn't understand that it was real. I was so scared of him getting out. It took about a year going back and forth with the DA and him being in jail and all of that. He never got out because they set his bail to over $1 million because he was a federal agent and he used his duty gear. And after a while, he took a plea deal. I did not want to go to trial. And since he took a plea deal of over 20 years, I knew I could raise our children into adulthood without him. And to me, that was the most important thing. And the charges were corporal injury of a spouse, false imprisonment by violence, penetration by foreign object with force and violence, of spouse by force, fear, and threat, and attempted. That person that I got that Snapchat out to was the one that saved my life. He triangulated my location off of Snapchat, which was brand new at the time. We wound up talking and for a while, and we fell in love, and we just celebrated our 3rd wedding anniversary. My children are safe and thriving. I have never felt loved before like I do now. If anything, this situation has given me the opportunity, one, at understanding that life is worth living and worth fighting for. There is so much out there that people don't recognize as abuse, and I want to change that. I want to change that within the church systems, because they did not help. Not a single person ever came to me and said, oh, wait, that is abuse, and recognize what I went through as things that are not okay. I want to change that. I want to help not just women, but I want to help men too, because men are just as much as women are. They just don't get to talk about it as much, right? So now it's just healing. Healing is every day. It took 2 years, because my husband and I have been together now for 5 years, and it took the first 2 years for me to be able to look him in the eyes, ever. I still shake when I reach to go and give him a hug. I still have moments in the middle of the night where if my foot is touching his foot and I didn't ask him for that permission, I still have a moment of panic. It's not an overnight thing, this healing situation. It took years to get indoctrinated into the abuse. It takes a long time to come out of it too. And so for me, my goal is not only just for healing for myself, but pushing forward to help other people understand that it doesn't have to be the way that it is or the way that they're living. And I want so badly for domestic. I would love for it to go away. I would love for this utopian type of world where that doesn't exist to be. But if anything, just to help others recognize that this doesn't have to exist for them, that's the goal. If this story does anything for anyone, then it's been worth it. I think at this point, it's not easy. Again, my children are having to unlearn a lot of things in their young life too. To be able to work every day together is a huge blessing because they didn't lose their mom.